Happy February, everybody. Dot 02, 2026 dot 02 should be out now or coming very soon. So it's time to go through the release notes. Just a few items to show here. Some stuff is behind the scenes. With the first few versions of the year, a lot of times we like to catch up on the various libraries and the behind the scenes stuff to make sure everything is gives a good chance to get everything tested. So we'll cover that in the notes when we get to it. We'll start off at as we always do, at the bottom here of the list. Gil has made a couple of changes to the moving head effect. Honestly, I think I need you guys to test this stuff out. Um, in terms of if it's still fully functional. We have a ticket outstanding on it, just to make sure that you can click and select the moving head effect properly. So just give that a shot. And nothing really to demo on that one. The next one here is a situation where if you change the frames per second on a sequence, so if you had, let me create a new sequence here, animation done, etc. If you go back into File, Sequence Settings, and you changed the um, if you change the frames per second, if you have render cache enabled, it was keeping the render cache from the previous frames per second and not invalidating that. Now I know the release note says that a warning is displayed, but it's actually more than that, or instead of that, it's actually just going to invalidate the render cache so that it would treat it like it should, and you shouldn't have to worry about it. It's going to invalidate the render cache and it'll rebuild it on the next render because it's going to see that the frames per second has changed. Okay. And that's what you want. Otherwise, you're going to get stuttering or something unusual in the effect because the frames per second of the render cache is different than what the current sequence is. All right. Something that was bugging people and a bug from my code change in O1 that's fixed in O2. If you batch rendered your sequence, for example, and then you came in and opened it up in xLights, it would be as though you never rendered it at all. Now the FSEQ was fine, but it didn't recognize it when you brought it into xLights and you had to re-render it again. So just a small change to fix that up. Yeah, so that should be fine. It was just a more of an annoyance than a true issue per se. It wouldn't have harmed your display at all. It was just an annoyance that you had to re-render all the time. There was an issue when you had a text effect that pulls from a file. So just to show you what I'm talking about, if I go to Matrix, Matrix here, and if I was to drop a text effect on here, for example. Now, some people know this, maybe don't know it, but you can actually read from a file here, and you can say read it from a file, and the file is like tuned to 90.1 FM, and you can just point to that file rather than typing it in here. You can point it to a file. Now, there was an issue that um, if you use that in more than one model, actually, I'll just show you this one here if I can. So in this text file, I have uppercase tuned to 90.1 FM, pull the song and the artist from the metadata. So here we go. And I'm going to make it go to the left, for example, and you got that. And what it's going to do is grab the metadata. So this is something maybe you didn't know about, but you can do that. And metadata, you can say, here's my song, and here's the artist. And if you recall, I had the word upper in there. So it would actually uppercase all the letters. And it should, do I have to extend it out? Let me just extend this out, force it to re-render. And oops, here we go. Should pull it in. Maybe it's because it's an animation, it's not pulling it in. But it would normally pull it in. Anyway, the bug was if you had this on multiple lines, it could cause a Windows crash because it's trying to read the same file at the same time. So that was the thing there. Fixed a couple of bugs in that were as a result of your crash dumps being submitted. I can see when there's certain things happening, and same with Dan and everybody else that has access to it. And I corrected a couple of bugs there for crashes that were pretty common. And RGB images models in the layout may be invisible. So there was a layout. If you were to create, oh, here we go. I got one over here. if you created an image model, and this is like a really big bulb, it used to not show up here. It would be all blacked out, grayed out. You couldn't actually see it. It was certainly usable in the sequencer. If I have this, RBL, and if I looked at the sequencer, you could drop in, let's see if I got it here. This is my demo thing. So, um, let's go, let's go edit display elements, bring this out. And do I have RBL here somewhere? There is. So that'll go to the bottom by default. If I come down here, and if I put a bars effect on that here, you can see that the model will change colors. Oops, green, blue. There you go. So an actual prop in your layout to represent things. Now obviously it's not just the top of the bulb that's changing color. There's only so much we can do, but it gives you a better representation of what you actually have out there. This originally was built for things like a snowman or a Santa or a blow mold or something like that, and we just sort of used it for the RBLs as well. So that was this one here. Queen Mary Vamp plugins. There's been some weird stuff going on. Obviously, we don't control this source code, but the place that was available for downloads has changed a couple of times. We're trying to keep up to date. Hopefully, it's working. You can either go to the Google and find Queen Mary Vamp plugin, or you should have a valid link if you still need to install that. Should work fine. Scott added full xLights control to the WLED. So that means in the controller section, if you were to add a new Ethernet, for example, and choose, in my demo version, I don't have it here, but you have the drop down and you see WLED. You now have the ability to do a full xLights control, which means it can do all of the updates required for the controller. So he's added that. Keith has put in the new Minleon protocols. So for the folks with Minleon hardware, they can use that. Disable the duration for media. Many people don't know this, but if you have a media, an MP3 associated with your audio, I think I could do this here. And if I go my show folder, there we go, audio. This guy here, click open. You no longer can change the sequence duration. And the reason for this is because no matter if you change this audio, when you go to play it in xSchedule or FPP, it will not use the duration of the sequence. It is going to use the duration of the audio. So don't fool yourself by updating the sequence duration because that has no impact. It's always the audio that drives it. For that reason, we have these options over here where you can add some buffer to it if you need to extend the sequence for maybe you're doing a mashup or maybe you just have an intro or an outro that you want to sequence to. You could add, say if I wanted to add 5 seconds to the end of the song, I could do adjust milliseconds 5,000. It won't change the original audio. It will create a new audio file. So no harm to go ahead and add 5 seconds to it. And you have a separate audio that you can do that for. Optionally, ring the bell if there's an error during batch render. So if you have a batch render and it hits a sequence that perhaps there's missing models or it's something that's out of date. Anyway, if there's an error on it, there was no bell that would ring. So if you were doing something else, you wouldn't have realized there was an error. Now this only applies if you've got the preference set to ring the bell on the batch render. So that would be under other and view. Oh, this one's going to be a tough one to find. It's probably going to be right in front of me, and I can't. Bell on render completion or error now. So before it was just on the render completion, but now it's also on the error as well. All right. Add check sequence warning for reversed single lines. This is something I put a video out there recently. And if you have a single line in your layout, we always want to encourage you to do left to right, bottom to top. So if I draw a new line here, and if I go, probably wouldn't be better if I was in 2D, even though it's not a 2D display. Let me do it again. 2D, it's a little easier to see. So it would flag it if this is done this way, for example. That's right to left instead of left to right. And you might think it doesn't matter, but if you see my other video on this, it does matter. So the bars effects will go left to right properly. If you have a single strand effect, it goes from left to right properly. Otherwise, it goes reverse. Anyway, we flag this now on on the check sequence. Okay, so that's some helpful information there. Be sure to check out that other video if you want more details on that. Um, there's an option now that's, or there's a pop-up that will happen now if you've got two of the AI services enabled that provide the same service for, in this case, the color palette. So if you have both ChatGPT enabled and the new Mac Apple Intelligence enabled, since they both can provide the color palette functionality, there will be a pop-up that will get you to select which one you want. So if I go here and if I go to the color palette, generate palette option here, you could say, I want to create a palette for a song, for example. I only have Olama installed here. But if you had multiple choices here, it would ask you which one you want. Right here, it would say, which one do you want to use for this option, okay? And allow to use Gemini to generate images. I put a video out this before we released this version. It's been slightly modified now for the release, but we now have an option here on to use Gemini. Gemini is a paid service, so unfortunately, it's not a free thing. You're going to have to go to Google Cloud, sign up for an account, put in credit card. It literally only costs a couple of pennies per image, but it's out there. It's, AI is still evolving. We may change this, we may remove this, we may it may come free at some point. We don't know. But so you have generate AI images, pretty simple. I could say Christmas jingle bells. There's a couple different options. I like to say sticker. And of course, every time you click it, you never know what you're going to get. You may get garbage, you may get something that looks cool, you may not get anything at all. But there's what you get for an image. But with the Gemini, the way this is set up currently, it's very cartoonish, simple images that you could put on a matrix or a tree. So it's not high def, it's not 4K photorealistic images. That was done intentionally so that you get an image that you're more likely to be able to use on on a uh, a matrix or a tree or something like that. So if I say Santa and hit and you can obviously save it, etc. So if I click Santa, goes out and does this. There's Santa. Oh, he's got no eyes, but again, it's probably keeping it simple. If I try cartoon, let's see what it gets here. You never know with the AI. You never get the same thing twice. It's like the Forrest Gump movie, right? You never know what you're going to get. So there's Santa. That one might be a little complex. It might work on a P5, P10, but you get the idea. All right. So that's available. You do have to set it up on the services thing, and I'll show you that in a second. Uh, Dan added this same feature over on the Mac side of things. Apple Intelligence is baked into the newer versions of the Mac. Sorry, I don't know the specifics, but it's in the later versions of Mac. So if you have that option, you will be able to do it with Apple Intelligence. I've got my Mac set up here in a remote desktop, so I should be able to show it to you. And if I go, first of all, I'll show you if you go to xLights preferences, and then you'll have this option here. You would want to say, well, there's the Gemini. You would put a check mark in the API key once you've signed up for an account. But if you're on Apple Intelligence, it's just the checkbox here. Once you've done that, you could do the test and it'll say, yes, it's connected. And then if you come back and go to the xLights again, you could do the same features, tools, generate AI images. And if I had said Christmas jingle bells, I think that's basically what I did before. And there's different options for style. We'll just try animation and click generate. I think I clicked it. Hopefully I did. And I'm going to test it. I'm not sure if I clicked it. I'm going to click it one more time. There we go. I must not have missed the click. The difference here, you can tell right away, Mac is sending you a photorealistic image. If that's what you want to get, then that's what you're going to get because it's a photorealistic image, and you can try to see how that looks on your display. Um, and we try again. Now with this one, there is no charge because it's built into your Mac operating system. This is using the Mac I believe it's called the Playground app. So it's something very similar. So they've provided hooks into the Playground app to get these images. Again, you get a photorealistic image. Note that on the Mac side of things, you cannot do anything that even remotely is like a person's image. You'll get errors or something like that. So if I was to say Santa, let's see if it works. Now, again, AI changes all the time. Maybe it's going to work. No, it gives you an error. It thinks that Santa is a real person. Now, if you were to place Santa into the Playground app, it would say, I need to know a face for this Santa Claus. It tries to marry the two together. It says it's a person. So if you're going to use the generate images on the Apple Intelligence side of things, you got to do only non person type things. We know Santa's not a real, ooh, I better not say that. We know that Santa is a fictional person, but unfortunately for this app, it thinks it needs a real face. So you have to think of inanimate objects, maybe maybe a Christmas stocking. Right? Let me just try that instead of an illustration. Let's try emoji just to play around with it. Again, on the Apple side of things, it's totally free. On the Gemini side of things, it does cost money. It's a couple pennies, maybe a nickel for each query. So there it is. Again, what I'm saying, it's a photorealistic thing. So you want to try and keep it simplified, and you can use that. So feel free to play around with it. If you come up with some cool stuff, feel free to share and let everybody know what you've done. Try not to spam the news groups and such, but the Facebook groups, but you get the idea. A slight tweaking of the layout. Currently, if you have single lines, if they're vertical or horizontal, it would highlight them. I just made it so that it was just a little more um, possible to see it. So hopefully I can get there. You just see it, it flips. There we go. So red means it's a perfectly horizontal line. Note for a layout, you want to have perfectly horizontal so that when you do a whole house effect, for example, it will light up the entire single line. If that was your eaves or your icicles or whatever, it would light up the entire line at the same time. If you have it slightly off, then it won't light up all at the exact same time. So it's always good to have that. When you're creating a layout, you don't really want to match up your house per se. You know that eaves on your house is perfectly horizontal. So forget the fact that maybe your photo's a little off crooked. You want to draw the lines perfectly straight. Now remember, this is actually wrong. You'd want to bring it over to this side, left to right. Now I also said bottom to top, so we should have the bottom to top should change the line too, right? There you go. So there you can tell it's a perfectly vertical line. So again, if you have a whole house effect as it moves from left to right or right to left, it will light up the entire string at the same time and not look like it's staggering its way up the line. So those are just a couple of little hints to give you a clue that you have things perfectly horizontal and perfectly vertical. So you can really OCD over your layout. Pierre added an option to make the color palette a little bigger for those folks that have larger displays. So right now is my color palette. This is the normal size. If you go to File Preferences, or in Mac, it would be xLights Preferences. You go to View and Color Palette Size. You want it to be larger. Click OK. And boom, you got a larger display for your icons. Note that it also falls over here and you get the larger color palettes here as well. So if you have a bigger display or you just like to be able to see the colors bright and bold like that, you can get the that option there. Okay, so it's in the preferences. Obviously, once you change your preferences, you're going to want to go to layout and save those preferences so that they're saved between versions of xLights. So when you stop xLights, if you don't save it, it won't be available for next time. So that's that one. And what I mentioned at the beginning of the video, updates to the plumbing behind xLights, the updated WX widgets, which is what xLights uses to do all the lists and all the drawing, all the bars. So with those kinds of updates, there's maybe some things that we don't necessarily come across or see as a bug or an issue. But if you find something like that, be sure to let us know. And similarly, Scott has updated the Linux side of things from Ubuntu 22 to Ubuntu 24. So for those Linux users out there, feel free to give it a test, give it a whirl. Let us know if you have any issues, and let us know if there's some bugs that we have to address on that side of things. So that's .02. Not a lot of new features, but a little bit of plumbing in there, a little bit of AI, and hopefully you find something good in value in O2. Keep testing things for us. We want to know if there's any issues. If you find issues, as always, the best thing to do is go to Help, Issue Tracker, do a tools package logs or tools package sequence or tools package logs. If you have a sequence or a situation that you can repeat, videos help as well to let us know that you clicked A, then you click B, then you click C, and we can help to track down those errors and solve those bugs for you there. Gil is working on a new big update for xLights as well. We think that might be ready for next version, but stay tuned. Keep an eye out as well for Andy's updates on the Zoom room classes on Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern. Feel free to drop in anytime. There's always folks in the Zoom room if you have any questions or comments or updates or cool features or anything you happen to come across. That's it for this video. It's probably a little long-winded, but have a great day. See you in the Zoom room and looking forward to the next release. Bye now.